Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and bigz. He is Grindberg. I am bigz. We are at the end of week 1 of the NFL football slate, and we're here to talk about that. Producer,
let's go.
welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and bigz. He is Grindberg. I am bigz. This is the first of our 3 episodes this week, covering week 1 and week 2. This is our week 1 recap show. We will have starts show. We will have sits show. Also, join us on Thursday night after Thursday Night Football for Points After Thursday, where we will take your starts and sits questions. And Breakfast with bigz actually coming back to your screens this coming Sunday at 8:30 a.m. Best Coast time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific or Eastern, leading into Spilled Coffee, which is the second best starts and sits show on the interwebs. Love those guys. I actually got to get a question in driving through the misty mountains of Oregon on Sunday morning. And one of our teams is undefeated and in first place in their division, and it's not yours, Mike. How's that feel? How's that feel?
What are we talking about?
What
are we talking about? What division?
The AFC West.
Ah, there it is. Fair enough. Yes, yeah, of course. Yeah, you got to put a little bit of a jab in there. It is true.
I'm a Raiders fan. I have to take my victories where I can get them.
There you go. Yes, absolutely. I love it, bigz. Now, a couple of big storylines, obviously, headed into this week. Week 2 now. I mean, week 1 is pretty much in the books here. It's the recap show. There's 2 big storylines that I wanted to talk about, and maybe that'll bloom some other conversations, if you will. So let's get into this. Let's get into the storylines. This season, last night was incredible. Well, I mean, I guess it would have been Sunday night for you viewers. Ravens and Bills, 81 fantasy point. That was complete madness. This season may have just kicked off, but Buffalo, heart stomping. 41-40 comeback over the Ravens. Looked every bit like a playoff classic. Josh Allen reminded everybody why he's an elite fantasy asset, torching the Ravens for 424 total yards and 4 touchdowns, including 3 scores in the final 7 minutes and 27 sections. Looked at Kayshon Coleman a couple times. He looked a couple of people's ways. So really interesting outcome there, especially later on the other side of the ball. You had Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. They both put on a show of their own, combining for over 460 and 5 touchdowns. Zay Flowers, DeAndre Hopkins, they both look good as well. So bigz. My first question to you, after watching that game, Josh Allen dropped nearly 40 fantasy points in a game where he ran in for 2 scores and targeted 6 different pass catchers in the red zone, with Kayshon Coleman emerging, James Cook getting consistent volume, and Allen clearly still willing to take off near the goal line. Are we staring at another 45 touchdown QB1 overall season from Josh Allen?
It's week 1, Mike. There are lots and lots of storylines that are out there, including, Geno Smith being second in passing yards in the NFL. Pump the brakes. Josh Allen is good, and he is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL, especially in fantasy. He's the reigning MVP, which some people disagree with. This is the kind of production that we can expect from him on a week-to-week basis. Derrick Henry, same thing. He is him. He hasn't lost a step. You watched him outrun cornerbacks. He's still 255 pounds of just granite and runs through people. Lamar Jackson continues to carry the same skill set. I was disappointed at the absence of Mark Andrews, but he'll get into the game plan at some point. One of the funniest things was I was watching the game with former Green Day drummer Uncle Jimmy, who coined the term second round reach around. And about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Bills were down by 15. And he said, "Oh, come on, it's over." And I looked at him and I was like, no, it's not over. And Josh Allen did Josh Allen things, and the Baltimore defense completely crumbled. And it was a fun game to watch. Fantastic Sunday Night Football game.
Yeah, it was awesome. Now, on the other side of the ball, we saw, Lamar Jackson, 280 passing yards, plus another 60 plus on the ground, dishes out 3 total touchdowns. Zay Flowers looked good. DeAndre Hopkins, what a catch he made. And of course, Derrick Henry doing Derrick Henry things. This offense put up 40 on the road in prime time and looked dangerous, with Henry clearly still explosive. Zay Flowers looking like a real legit wide receiver one, and Hopkins flashing red zone chemistry. Is this the deepest and most fantasy viable supporting cast Lamar's ever had?
Probably. Especially considering the fact that Mark Andrews really didn't get into the game plan, and they still wound up putting up 40 points and having pretty stellar fantasy performances. So, it was quite a night, and we know what to expect from the Bills and the Ravens.
Yeah, I can't wait. Maybe that could be a playoff matchup for those that are looking forward to the playoffs already. But let's move on to the next storyline that I felt like needed to be.
I do want to point out that when we were doing the napkin league, the player that I said not to leave your drafts without was DeAndre Hopkins, and he finished so far as wide receiver 31, which puts him in the flex. So as a last round pick, you couldn't do better.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about another game that was pretty shocking for a lot of people, I would say. So Daniel Jones, donned his Colt uniform, might have sounded like a punchline this offseason, but after torching Miami for 272 yards, 3 total touchdowns, the joke's over. Indianapolis came out with purpose, and fantasy managers were treated to the kind of balance you'd dream of in week 1. Jonathan Taylor, 93 total yards, Tyler Warren leading the team in catches, and Michael Pittman finding the end zone. The Colts looked competent, cohesive, and confident. 3 words we haven't associated with that team in years. And as for Miami, what a disaster that was. Tua turned it over 3 times. The backfield was a mess, and Tyreek and Waddle combined for just 70 receiving yards. There were more penalties and big plays, more questions than answered, and somehow less fight than we've seen from a Mike McDaniel offense in week 1. Is any indication this Dolphins team isn't starting slow? It's spiraling. Now, Biggs, I got a question, about, Daniel Jones. He looked great, kind of great, goes, 22 for 29, not too shabby. So what are we looking at here with him? 2 rushing scores, gets Pittman involved. Tyler Warren leads the team in targets, add in Jonathan Taylor. So be honest, are we buying this version of Daniel Jones as a weekly starter, or are we just having to see it after week 1 and what happens next week?
It's a great question. And again, it's week 1, so there aren't a whole lot of answers yet. It is the crumbling Miami Dolphins. So we don't know if they're going to bounce back, and we don't know how much of that was positive for the Colts. I would be tempered with Daniel Jones. Now, going into the season, there was a quarterback debate in Indy with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, and everybody knows the physical upside of Anthony Richardson, and everybody watched Daniel Jones flail in New York. The one thing that we've always known about Daniel Jones is he does have that escapability, and he has had a good fantasy season in the past. So I'm not gonna go out and say that it's the real Daniel Jones, and I'm not going to say that it's not the real Daniel Jones. We can probably expect this from him again in the future, and we can also probably expect a complete and total breakdown performance at some point. So that's where Daniel Jones is at.
Yeah, it was a pretty great looking game. Honestly, he looked pretty competent in that offense, and it'll be really interesting to see if this Michael Pittman was just a mirage, or is he back to that ascending wide receiver that we thought about a couple years ago when he broke the top 12 in wide receiver ranks here. So interesting situation. But on the other side of the ball there, Biggs, there's a lot of question marks now leaving in Miami here. It's not looking good there. They face planted 33-8 across the board. Tua looked shaky. Offensive line, it fell apart. Tyreek and Waddle were ghosts for the most part of the game. Is it time to panic if you're holding Dolphins weapons in redraft, and specifically if you're sitting on Tua or Achane or even Tyreek? Do you ride this out, or are you looking for trade windows before things get worse?
I write it out. One of the things of note is that the Colts had a very underrated defense. I play in a home league with a couple of Colts fans, and last year I was looking at their roster and I asked these guys, when you look at the Colts offense or defense on paper, what, like, these are names, these are dudes. Why are they playing so under their level? And he said, Gus Bradley. Well, Gus Bradley was given his walking papers, so they have a new defensive coordinator this year, and you saw them absolutely befuddle and shut down Miami. So similar to what, the Chargers run game against the Chiefs, sometimes defenses just do their thing, right? The Colts defense is very good. I don't own Tua in any leagues because I don't trust him, but Tyreek will, and Waddle either. Tyreek will come back. Devon Achane will come back. We have to remember they're in a division where they get to see the Patriots twice. They get to see the Jets twice. And we watched those defenses. The Jets couldn't stop Pittsburgh. Patriots couldn't stop the Raiders. There are better days ahead for Miami Dolphins players. But Tyreek and Achane were the only ones that I was owning in that offense anyway. What's his name?
Ollie Gordon
Yeah. Too. But
yeah, I was hoping to see a little bit more from there, but when you're playing from behind, and Tua was seeing stars obviously being replaced to help his safety out, and we'll have to see what happens there. That's an evolving situation. It was kind of like a steaming, boiling over from last year, and it's already continuing to boil over here, so we'll see what that next stage goes for the Dolphins. Now, any other big games to note here that you might want to touch base on? We had a huge game between the Jets and the Steelers. That was pretty not what people expected from that line. I mean, it can crush the over by probably about 25 points there. So what are your thoughts on that game? Anything else? Any other games you'd like to mention here, Biggs, before we move on to our waiver wire?
I was expecting the Raiders and Patriots to look more like the Steelers Jets game. It was pretty wild to watch Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers and Justin Fields with the Jets, flipping teams from last year and absolutely going at it. And Chris Boswell kicking a 60-yard field goal. That was just beautiful. A couple of notes. Christian McCaffrey, fully in RB1 mode. Detroit looks like they're in trouble. Green Bay has a fantastic defense, and adding Micah Parsons to it makes them they're probably going to finish the season with the lowest EPA per play of any defense. That's a good thing. Lowest EPA in yards per play. And the Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery thing, I tried to say all offseason that Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't going to run away with that job. They handed the ball off to David Montgomery a ton, and that's what we're going to see. And there was another game. Carolina, awful. Jacksonville, back.
You think the Jacksonville Jaguars are back after that showing? Playing an awful Carolina team, and
I don't think Etienne is the dude.
Yeah, I think Travis Etienne is the dude for sure. That game raised a lot of question marks to me about Trevor Lawrence again. I'm hoping that he looks better. Obviously with the new offense system coming in here, but he did not look great, and I'm worried about that. The run game looked awesome, which we knew was going to happen in a Liam Coleman offense, and we knew that was going to spread the ball into the running back's hands. So we both got a little bit of Travis Etienne shares, and I'm glad we did stuff them in our pockets at this point.
And I want to reiterate from our starts and sit shows last week, It's week one. Let's not confirm our priors or get too far ahead of ourselves. We drafted guys for a reason. If you look at who the top wide receivers were in week one last year, it's not the guys that finished in the top. Everything balances out. So don't freak out. Don't go crazy. You drafted players for a reason. It's a lot of people, especially in redraft, really don't make big roster decisions until after week 4. So if you drafted Tyreek Hill in the 3rd round or the 4th round, wait until week 4. Maybe start somebody else, but don't drop him. Don't make a trade. Don't do anything like that until the season is a month in.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
And with that, let's get to our waiver wire ads.
Let's do that, Biggs. Okay, let's get you started off. Let's start at the quarterback / tight end position. We kind of broke them out down into 3 groups, wide receiver being one, running back being another one, and then we kind of grouped the tight end and quarterback position like we did last year. So start us off with your QB tight end waiver wire pickup this week.
So it's going to be Michael Mayer, and he's not a waiver wire ad for me per se because I have him absolutely everywhere because I wanted to handcuff Brock Bowers, and Michael Mayer was getting catches and he was making plays when Brock Bowers was on the field. We saw that coming. It's part of Chip Kelly's offense. We knew that was kind of the way that it was going to go down. But when you look at everything, yesterday, obviously Brock Bowers had 8 targets. Michael Mayer had 4 targets, 4 catches. Brock Bowers is dealing with a knee issue. Pete Carroll wasn't willing to say anything in the press conference today about his condition, essentially said he's day-to-day, which means that they're monitoring his activity level. They're not going to make any decisions on whether he's going to be available next Monday or not. But the fact is that Michael Mayer needs to be on your roster, A, just in case something happens to Brock Bowers, and B, he's gonna add some points anyway. He's gonna add a touchdown at some point, and if you have a tight end who gets you 40 yards and a touchdown, that's 11 points from the tight end position, which is, that's startable tight end. That's in a reserve role. Now, if he substitutes in for Brock Bowers, he's looking at another 2 or 3 targets per game. That's putting him into an elite level. So I would recommend rostering Michael Mayer as soon as possible. The other one, and because it's QBs and tight end, I didn't want to split them up. If Jackson Dart is available in your league, go grab him because Russell Wilson is not long for this league.
Yeah. I was floating between Jackson Dart and my guy here at the quarterback position as far as somebody to pick up. But I think, I agree with that. If you got a really deep bench, Biggs, get Jackson Dart on there. It's not going to be long before he takes that offense over. And there's also already been some speculation here. Dable didn't even say with confidence that Russ was going to start week 2. So there's already some.
He did say he was, but maybe not confidently.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't as confident as I'd like to have seen from that. But a guy that is starting and a guy that is, on a new team, new offense, but he still has that sneaky fantasy upside. And I'm talking about Daniel Jones. We mentioned him earlier in the segment here, and he cracked the top 10 in 2022. And it had nothing to do with, 300-yard passing games. But in his Colts debut, he carved up the Dolphins, 272 yards passing through the air, 2 rushing touchdowns, 29.5 fantasy points, which making him a top 3 quarterback in week 1. While it's not a sell it and forget it fantasy starter, Jones is now in an offense that lets him move, and that's what matters. He's a mobile quarterback. And he's got the upside of maybe getting, if he starts the whole season between 500 and 800 yards rushing. We've seen it before. You give him weapons like Michael Pittman and now Tyler Warren, and they have a solid run game. Yes, he does draw the Broncos in week 2, so I would not start him. But he's, a great streaming option for the future here. He's got the Rams and the Raiders in week 4 and 5. It makes him a strong streaming option and a borderline must start in super flex league. So, Daniel Jones is a guy that I'm willing to pick up, and if he continues this pace, he may be a starter on a team that I faded quarterback in, and I did that a lot this year. So a Daniel Jones pickup is definitely on my radar 7 rushing attempts, 2 rushing touchdowns, 76% completion percentage, 13 in rushing yards per game among quarterbacks last season, and some soft matchups coming up. So looking forward to seeing what Daniel Jones can continue to do in this offense. Like we said, it's just week 1. Let's not get over our skis here, folks, but the signs are pointing up here for Daniel Jones, and let's get him in on our teams.
Geno Smith is another one. He had 365 yards passing yesterday against the other day against the New England Patriots, whose cornerback, their defensive back group looks pretty good, and they play a lot of man coverage. Geno was able to beat them with his arm, and there will be some higher scoring outputs from the Raiders moving forward. Geno will have 300-yard games, couple touchdowns. So he's going to be a viable option this year. And if he's available and you have room to add him, he's another one to think about.
Love it. All right, Biggs, let's get into your running back pick here for waiver wires.
Oh, that's
you're just all over.
No. You're all over the show sheet, and it's okay. I can adapt. I can adjust. I'm adaptable. Just to be fair to the viewer, Mike had himself going first in the QB tight end section. Then he had the wide receivers. Then he had the running backs. He made me go first in the quarterback section, and now he's switching to running backs. But look at me. I'm adding DJ Giddens. He's another guy that I drafted all over the place during draft season because Jonathan Taylor has dealt with injuries before, and DJ Giddens is in a good position to take over in case he gets hurt. Well, guess what? Jonathan Taylor got hurt, was pulled from the game. We don't have a